You may have seen these before. I've never tried them, but today we're gonna test them. A couple of things you gotta consider about products like this, the Pole Start Fire Starter. Right off the hop, you notice the cost. They're kind of expensive, and there's a one-time use. You use them one time and they're done. Another consideration is the fact that they're kind of bulky. You know, this compared to, say, a Bic lighter, there's a big size difference, right? However, where I believe these are intended to shine is a one-time use, emergency situation, minimal effort. You pull the string, boom, you've got fire. With less than ideal tinder, you don't have to prep as much. Your wood can be a little bit more damp. I think that's the goal with these things. Well, that's a big part of what we're gonna test. We're also gonna test how easy is it, right? I mean, how easy is this really? There's a lot of products out there that are just kind of meh. So this is gonna be my review of the Pole Start Fire. We've got this chunk of cedar I brought from the house. Kind of on some time constraints here to film this, but it's plenty wet here. You can see it was dry at one point, but it ain't dry now. Oh, there's a little bit of dry inside, I suppose. You can see the fine folks who are gracious enough to give us some destructionaries. We're gonna probably disregard that entirely. And we are, however, going to build a small little structure of some kind. We've got a mix of very, very wet base and then some semi-dry wood here. None of this is super dry. None of this is perfect or ideal fuel. In fact, some of it is about as far from that as you could possibly be. I think we can probably just do something like this. Ooh, yeah. So much as I expected, this is basically a road flare. Similar materials, right? This is soaking wet right here. We're just gonna throw that on there as well. Some of these pieces are kind of dry in the middle, but this is green as well. We're gonna way overload our fire. Really just kind of abuse the whole process here. Put a little snow on there just for safekeeping. Oh, that's pretty wet. Let's see what that does. Well, fellas, I would say that is a fire. Our wood is still fairly wet. And you can see the stuff that's more wet, like this guy here has been in flame pretty much the entire time. It's not really on fire, it's more just drying it out. The very surface of it's got a little flame, but this stuff is not very dry, and yet it goes. I think part of the reason for that is this thing actually brings its own fuel. Not only does it have an igniter, it actually brings some fuel with it. So this little brick, there's an igniter, a flare style like strike igniter in there, I believe. Looks like the same chemicals they use for road flares, but also this brick is fuel. So even if your fuel is wet, this little brick of fuel that's part of the starter will burn for up to half an hour, helping dry out and actually ignite your wetter fuels. I think the concept of this is really cool. They seem to work. Obviously sample size of just uno, but still a neat concept. I really like it. As I mentioned before, the price is a little bit of a turnoff. Maybe for guys on a budget, the Bic is the way to go. But this shines because it's just quick and easy. You can have wetter fuels, and in an emergency situation where you're really at risk of hypothermia and you need to get a fire going now, right? As quickly as possible with minimal exertion, minimal effort. Something like this, the Pole Start Fire, is the way to go. I quite like these, and I'm glad I bought a pile of them. I'm gonna continue to test these and use them in the dead of winter. Real world application, let you know how they work out. But first impressions, man, I'm happy with them. I think they're great. It's a good idea.